Hello and welcome to KDEL's Executive Leadership presentation. As always, I'm Dr. Ewulu, lead coach at KDE Leadership and your presenter for today. I'm going to start with a few challenges that our leaders and frontline executors face in the course of their work. Leaders prepare and manage their own budget. They have scarce financial and human resources. Leaders sometimes have team members in different locations. Leaders and frontliners face technological challenges. Leaders and frontliners work and produce their outcomes remotely. And finally, leaders and frontliners face communication sustenance difficulties. This presentation is going to address some training needs of agency and corporate leaderships, and of course, mid-levels in the realm of giving and receiving oversight in remote work environments. We're going to touch on how to inspire, sustain, and measure higher team member productivity. We're going to review a few action steps leaders should leverage to communicate effectively, to delegate responsibly, to negotiate win-win outcomes, to manage scarce human, tech, financial, and scheduling resources. Finally, we're going to touch on some project management tools that can help equip leaders to provide smart, fast, and productive oversight of mid-levels and frontline implementers. Specifically, because time is short, we will briefly highlight the following topics: sustaining productivity in a virtual world, managing scarce human resources and empowerment, communications, strategy, conflict management and resolution, delegation, negotiations, and project management. Let's begin with sustaining productivity in a virtual world. Two things, amongst others, have to be done if you want to sustain productivity in a virtual work environment. Number one, you want to establish a productivity baseline. This simply means putting a plan together. It all starts with a plan of action. You want to involve most stakeholders during your planning sessions, so you don't have to face resistance during implementation. Secondly, you want to indoctrinate a high-performance mindset. What do I mean by this? This means encouraging your team to set high goals for themselves, of course, within reason, okay? Their professional goals should be lofty enough to stretch them, but not too high to break them. Next on the list is how to manage scarce human resources and empowerment. I want to touch on budgeting fundamentals. When you understand that resources will always be stretched thin, you should then leverage your knowledge of basic concepts, such as focusing, tunneling, packing, slack, outsourcing, offshoring, and trade-off thinking in order to make things work. This was handled in more detail at a previous presentation entitled Doing More with Less, Budgeting Amidst Scarcity. Secondly, we're going to look at how to optimally apply resources during crisis and scarcity. This means when you apply fast tracking, crashing, and resource leveling techniques to make the best and most prudent use of your available resources, especially during scarcity and crisis-laden times, which of course is most of the time. Communications. To communicate, we've got to listen actively, either by taking notes or by practicing empathetic listening. Recapping, confirming what you understand in your own words before giving your response to the question or to the comment. Softening, using connectors such as, by the way, generally speaking, hey, off the cuff, You want to use this to reduce the forcefulness of your opinions and make them more palatable to your listeners. Email sequencing. It's a method of starting conversations by first discussing issues verbally before committing anything to email for a higher chance of acceptance. Emails often elicit resistance. KIS, keep it simple. You want to dumb things down. Ideally, your communications, both oral and written, should be simple enough to be understood by an 8th grader. That's a 14-year-old. And then finally, under communications, we're looking at preferred receiver platforms. What do I mean by this? This strategy encourages us to identify each listener's preferred medium of communications and use it. You get a better response that way. As a coach, I use multiple platforms to communicate with my clients, to run training sessions depending on their preferences. And now a brief look at strategy. Strategy includes vision, mission, strategy, and of course, tactics. Your vision is the high-level view of what you want to attain. It describes your preferred end result in one sentence. It doesn't include how to get there. Your mission includes 3 to 4 statements describing what you want to do in general terms to actualize the vision. The statements, again, do not quite break things down to smaller tasks that frontline executors can handle. Strategy, an action plan for the immediate future. It focuses on achieving the mission and the statements. It is a carefully thought out response and can be executed by frontline workers. Tactics, these are action plans in the present. They address how to fix current issues. They're often targeted at ongoing issues and can be classified as reactions. Unlike strategies, can be handled by frontline executors. So in essence, tactics support strategies, strategies support missions, and missions support the vision. I want us to learn to plan with the end in mind. This thought process encourages us to visualize our goal and then plan backwards until we get to its starting point. This helps us maintain tight budgets, scopes, schedules, and achieve high quality expectations from our clients, from our bosses, from our customers. Now let's review a few conflict management and resolution facts and recommended practices. The first thing I want to say here is that conflicts should not be evaded. They should be embraced. This is with the aim of resolving them, and if not possible, managing them. So let's start with conflict management. This involves following a sequence of identification, brainstorming for those solutions, whittling down the alternatives until a few workable solutions are agreed upon, implementing the solution, tweaking based on feedback. We're to focus on the behavior and not on the person if we're to manage conflict successfully. The second part of conflict is conflict resolution. This path is pursued when there's a chance that the conflict can be resolved, that is, can be made to go away. In this case, you can utilize any of these applicable resolution styles. Avoidance, where you ignore the conflict. Accommodation, where you let the other person have their way. Competition, where you have your way because you have the power, the control, and the knowledge. Compromise, where the both of you meet halfway. And of course, collaboration, where you collectively work out a solution that lets everyone involved get all they want. Collaboration is the only win-win style of conflict resolution. Let me quickly touch on delegation. Delegation is the practice of passing on tasks to others to perform. We all delegate in everyday life. It can occur downwards, laterally, or upwards. And there are a few pros and cons. A positive outcome of delegation is the end result. That end result is replicating yourself. People master tasks when they are delegated to. They eventually become as good, if not better than their bosses, at performing those tasks. So it's a good thing to delegate. It's a good thing to aspire to have your delegates eventually become better than you are. A negative outcome of delegation is for delegators to plan for diminished outcomes in the short term. What happens when you reduce performance expectations during the delegation period? Delegates are less anxious. They'll come up to speed, and eventually they're going to exceed expectations the longer they are hands-on. So please don't worry about it. Finally, when discipline and confidential matters are involved, one should not delegate. And now a brief look at negotiations. The goal during negotiations is for all parties to come out with what they want, to achieve a win-win situation. So, in the negotiations process, honesty and transparency are required. You also have to see yourself as being on the same side as your opposite number. That is, the negotiator on the other side of the table. You are to collaborate by innovatively finding ways for all parties to win. Two negotiation strategies to learn are BATNA and ZOPA. BATNA is an acronym for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement, while ZOPA is an acronym for Zone of Possible Agreement. Again, we've already discussed this in greater detail at a previous presentation, Doing More with Less. Finally, before I close, I'm going to touch on project management. Project management requires a bird's eye view. Leaders should have a 20,000 feet view of the entire group of goals, of tasks, of objectives. They should see how they interrelate and have the resolve and know-how to achieve all of them with the scarce resources available. In essence, leaders should develop the ability to balance cost, schedule, quality, and scope expectations during planning. These four project management knowledge areas can constrain successful performance as they make demands on the central pool of resources, which, as we all know, are never adequate. My advice with regards to project management: whatever plan of execution you come up with should be shared with the different program and project team leaders so they can be in sync with you and track performance during the implementation stages. Tracking is comparing the plan with the progress of work. So, what have we learned today? As leaders grappling with the challenges of generational differences, cutthroat competition, rapidly changing software, and of course, dwindling resources, some of our leadership do's and don'ts are: be tolerant, be flexible, be understanding. You want to develop and use great communication skills. Do not take your remote workers for granted. Appreciate them. Hold your employees accountable. Praise them, recognize them, coach them, and if needed, do not be afraid to counsel them. Encourage the use of milestones. Micromanage via phase gates. Manage by objectives. Collaboratively, together with your people, set SMART goals and small tasks. Finally, build your executive currency. You want to do small favors for team members. Our last four presentations were on team dynamics, change management, budgeting amid scarcity, and project management KSAs and PMO setup. You can watch replays of them on my LinkedIn profile page. Enjoy it, and please do share the link with your team members. If you want to bring these trainings in-house to your team, just schedule on my online calendar at calendly.com/KDE leadership/30 minutes. I want to invite you to join me for our next LinkedIn Live event on Friday, June 30th, 2023 by 7 p.m. Eastern. The topic will be measuring productivity in virtual work settings. Again, I encourage you to sign up with us on LinkedIn to receive notifications for these events. You can also join us via Zoom. The link is displayed on the screen. Finally, these short presentations, there have been 5 of them in total, are a build-up to our 3-day virtual leadership conference coming up between July 10 and 12, 2023. Conveniently scheduled between 8 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. Eastern on all 3 days. Zoom details will be available once you register. The descriptions and sign-up link for the 3-day virtual leadership conference are at the bottom of the screen. For those who have joined us today on audio only, the leadership conference link is KDE-virtual.com/virtual-leadership-conference. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that today's presentation will help you lead your teams the right way and to get the best out of them. See you next Friday, June 30th, 2023, at our next presentation on measuring productivity in virtual work settings. Be safe. I am Dr. KD Ewulu. I'll be signing out now. See you next week. Bye for now.